researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, they did an experiment some time ago that involved introducing an amoeba into a perfectly stress-free environment. They set the amoeba in an ideal temperature, optimal concentration of moisture, constant food supply. This amoeba had everything, an environment to which it had to make no adjustments to at all. It was a perfect environment for this amoeba. So you would guess this would be one happy little amoeba, wouldn't you? You were thinking, now, whatever that makes a happy amoeba, I don't know. And I really, as I looked into this, I said, what would stress out an amoeba? I'm not really sure of all these things. I mean, how does an amoeba get high blood pressure or ulcers and stuff? I don't know. But they set it in a situation where there was no stress whatsoever. And apparently that's not the prime environment, because it died. It died. It was in a perfect, stress-free environment that had no worries, no concerns, nothing. And it died. There's something about all living creatures, even, amoebas, that demand a challenge. There's something about our life that demands a challenge. We require change. We require adapting. We require a challenge the way we would require food and air for our bodies. Our bodies, for us to sustain and continue, we need stress. Yeah. Some people say, well, I'm there, brother. I'm there in that living. They did a study of 300 highly successful people like Franklin Roosevelt, Helen Keller, Winston Churchill, Albert Schweitzer, Gandhi, Albert Einstein. And in this study, it revealed that 1/4 had handicaps such as blindness, deafness, or crippled limbs. 3/4 had either been born in poverty, came from broken homes, or at least came from exceedingly tense and disturbed situations. Now, if you remember our study in the book of Genesis, as we looked at Joseph, you remember when we last left Joseph, he was in prison for attempted rape. He was thrown into prison for attempted rape for a crime he did not commit. Well, hope came through 2 fellow prisoners that he would interpret their dreams for them, and they swore if he would get them out of prison, that they would tell Pharaoh all about him, and they would. But listen, the baker died, and the cupbearer, well, he failed to remember Joseph's name, let alone to tell Joseph anything about him, and so Joseph remained in prison. Well, as we pick up in our story, 2 long years have passed. 2 long years have passed since the butler was released and went to Pharaoh at this point. Still, Joseph sits in prison. He still sits in prison, wasting away, or we thought so at this point. You see, what God had in store for his life was greater than he could even imagine. Something greater was about to happen in his life. Now, as we study the life of Joseph, I want you to do something. Y'all still with me? Say amen. Amen. I want you to understand this. I want you to pay special attention to the way God works in Joseph's life. Because his actions towards Joseph, he's revealing something to us about himself. The way he reacted to Joseph and the way he reacted to Joseph's circumstance, he's telling something to us about himself. The Bible says that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Is that an amen? Amen. Amen. All right. And because that's true, listen to me. Because that's true, the way you see him dealing with Joseph and the way you see him dealing with other Old Testament characters shows us how he works in our lives today. If he's the same that he was when he dealt with Joseph and how he dealt with Joseph's life, I can look at Joseph and say, all right, God, that's how you'll deal with my life. That's how you're going to work within my life, is the same way you worked in the Old Testament story lives. In other words, we can gain insight into what God's doing in our lives and how he's working in our situation by studying how he worked in the past. How he worked in the past is how he's going to work today and how he's going to work tomorrow. So by studying how he worked in the past is going to give me an insight on how he's going to work in my life today. understanding how He's going to work in my life today. Today I want to share with you some principles about the life of Joseph. And we talked about this a little bit last week, talking about how to survive success. Now that really doesn't make sense, does it? Because we want to learn how to survive and overcome our circumstances, but I want to talk to you about overcoming or surviving our success. And it's kind of like again an oxymoron. Surviving success, like military intelligence, kind of goes along with that line. I served in the military, so I understand that as it goes. And so we don't understand. Say, oh well, you know what? Just give me success. I'll do fine. I'll do all right. Just lay it on me, brother. Let me win the lottery, and boy, I'll do great. Things will be wonderful in my life. You see, listen to me. The ego and pride that comes from making it to the top have brought more people to the bottom than anything else. The ego and pride of achieving success, if you're not ready for it, will bring you down like chutes and ladders. It really will. It'll bring you down to the bottom. Well, after a full, long 2 years, Joseph sitting in prison, dull, monotonous, unspectacular waiting, Joseph's about to experience a turning point in his life. He's about to experience a wonderful turning point in his life. In his life, it was like any dungeon day. Any dungeon day that was going on. He woke up doing the same dungeon stuff that the dungeon people do. He was going through this any dungeon day. It seemed like any other day. Something was about to happen to Joseph in his life. The night before, he didn't know this. The night before, Pharaoh had a dream. The night before, Pharaoh had a dream. Look with me, if you will, in Genesis chapter 41. Verse 1. Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream. Verse 8. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled. Do you remember the last time you had a bad dream? You remember the last time you had a bad dream? Have you noticed the worst dreams always have kind of 3 characteristics in them? They involve a tragedy. They seem very real because they seem so real. They just seem real to us, and we remember them. I had a dream the other night, and my wife's probably going to say, don't say that. Don't tell that one. I had a nightmare the other night. And I usually don't have. I usually don't dream, and I had a nightmare the other night. And it used to, my son Luke, we used to always, every Friday we'd go to Dairy Queen. When they got out of school, I'd pick them up every Friday. We'd go off to Dairy Queen and we would talk about their week and talk about things that were going on. And in my dream, I went and picked Luke up and we'd gone off to Dairy Queen. And the manager of Dairy Queen was my old best friend, Dan Sierka. Now, Dan Sierka had always, all the way growing up through school and stuff, he wanted to go to college for business management. He was going to be a big-time manager. So he was managing the Dairy Queen that we went to. Now, I don't know if you arrive if you manage Dairy Queen, but you're doing all right, I guess. And so we get there, and we get our ice cream, and Luke and I are sitting there eating our ice cream, talking, and these 3 ladies come by, and they ask me for my autograph. They're looking at me. They say, we know you. Can we have your autograph? And so I'm thinking, all right, who do you think that I am at this point? I said, how would you like me to sign this? Would you like me to sign it George Strait? Or would you like me to sign it, what's that other guy from Greece? John Travolta, there you go. So maybe they thought I was John Travolta. Maybe they thought I was Fabio. I'm not really sure who they thought I was. And so I finally asked her, I said, I don't know. I think you must be mistaken. She said, no, we're not mistaken. We'd like to have your autograph. We know who you are. And I said, who do you think I am? They said, you're that guy from that infomercial, ShamWow. It was a nightmare. I woke up in cold sweat. ShamWow. Come on, give me something. Don Rickles, anybody, but not ShamWow. But you see, most of the time when we have bad dreams or we have nightmares, they involve some kind of tragedy. And that was tragedy in my life at that point. And they seemed very real because when I woke up, I wanted to use a ShamWow. At that point. And because they seemed so real, we remember them. So I remember as soon as I got up, I went in and I told Kim, I said, I had a nightmare. I had a terrible dream last night. I sell ShamWow on television. That kind of thing. Well, see, the Pharaoh dreamed, what he dreamed had all 3 ingredients. He had all 3 ingredients in his dream. And the Egyptians put a lot of stock in dreams, and this one he had was a doozy. It was a doozy. For all he knew, a dream like this could mean the fall of his dynasty in Egypt. So Pharaoh was desperate to find out what his dream meant. And so he called together what I call the wise guys, his magicians. He called together all the wise guys, and they came up with a string of zeros in trying to interpret his dream. Meanwhile, the butler, the cupbearer, is standing over to the side watching all this unfold at the Pharaoh's court. And Pharaoh's getting more and more and more agitated that no one can interpret his dream. And heads are about to roll. I mean, literally, when you upset the Pharaoh and he can't figure it out, the whole kingdom gets upset, all right? And people are going to start to lose their head. If something's not done, this is going to turn south. All of a sudden, a light turns on in the cupbearer's head. And he's thinking to himself, listen, Joseph, how could I be so silly to forget? Joseph would know what this dream means. He'll be able to interpret this dream. And so the cupbearer comes before the Pharaoh, and he says, hey, Your Highness, remember when the baker and I were in the doghouse with you, and you put us in the prison? When we got to the prison that night, there was a young Hebrew man there, and both of us had a dream, and in the morning we asked this young Hebrew guy to interpret our dreams for us, and he interpreted correctly that the baker would die, and I'd be restored in his place, or into the kingdom of your cupbearer. And that's exactly what happened. So he interpreted our dreams exactly to the point of what happened. Well, Pharaoh didn't waste any time. He said, well, what are you waiting for? Go and get this Joseph guy. Go and get him and bring him up here. Now remember, Joseph had no idea what was taking place. We know the story. He didn't know the story. He was living it day to day. And so he didn't know what God... And so all he knew is now here comes Pharaoh's guards marching into the prison. They call out his name. Joseph, Pharaoh wants to see you. And so he could be thinking in his mind, well, it's my time to lose my head. I've been here long enough that they're probably going to take me up and kill me like they did the butler or the baker. And so he could have thought, in the sense that they're going to put his head on the chopping block. But instead, he was moving from the pit to the palace. He didn't know he was moving his way up. I mean, it's like the Jeffersons. Yeah, moving on up. Yeah, please, right? He was moving up. Things had changed in his life. And he didn't know all the things that were going place. Now, I say all that to say this. Some of you are on the verge of moving on up. Amen. Some of you today are on the verge of moving on up, on the verge of a promotion that you didn't even know that you were going to get. That's because God doesn't announce his appointments in advance. God didn't come to the dungeon and say, Joseph, get ready, you're going up. You're moving up to the top. You're going to be way up there with the big boys now. God didn't come and tell him anything. All he knew for anything is that he was going up to see Pharaoh, and this could be bad. God doesn't always tell you in advance what he's going to do and how he's going to elevate you. Sometimes it just happens. It just happens. It just starts to move. And that's what listen, you wait and you work and you work and you wait, thinking that God has passed you by, when all of a sudden God comes and he moves in your life like you've never known it before. He moves in your life. You get that job that you've been working for. You got that promotion that you've been looking out for. You got that pay raise. The check comes in the mail. Along the way, the promotion comes through. Your house sells. You see, that's the way God works. He doesn't tell you in advance. He says, when you're ready, I'm going to make it happen. Amen. When everything is prepared in your life, and we've gone through some things together, then I'm going to make it happen. Listen, God is doing something in your life. I know that because the Bible tells me that it's happening. God's doing something in your life. You may not know what it is right now, church. Listen to me. You may not know, because you're going to, don't come to me after church and say, what's God going to do in my life? I don't know! Don't call me on the phone and send me a letter. What's God doing in my life? I don't know what he's doing. But believe me, he is working. He never stops working. God doesn't look at it and say, you know what? Wash my hands with that person. I ain't working with him anymore. I'm talking about a knucklehead. Yeah, no, he just does that to deacons. Nobody else, all right? Amen. No, we love our deacons in the afternoon. All right, listen. He's weaving all the experiences of your life together for one experience. Why are you going through what you're going through? Because he's weaving something together. Why are the struggles that you're having right now? Because he's weaving something together so that there's going to be a big move in your life. Something's going to happen in your life. And when that door, listen to me, y'all still like say good. Amen. When that door of opportunity opens, you've got to be ready. When he opens that door, you've got to be ready. Now, the question I want to ask you this morning, when that happens, will you be ready?
Amen.
Will you be ready? You see, God's been doing all this stuff, putting all this stuff together, weaving everything together. He's got it ready. Then he opens the door, and you've been so oblivious to God and these things. He opens the door, and you just stand at it staring like a calf at a new gate, not even knowing what to do, instead of walking through there. So that you don't miss that opportunity or blow it when it comes, I'm going to help prepare you, all right? I'm going to give you some things that's going to help prepare you by giving you some pointers. When Joseph's moment came, he was ready. When it was time for him to come to the Pharaoh's court, Joseph was ready. He was spiritually, physically, and mentally ready for the job. Everything was in place. He cleaned himself up, went to the Pharaoh's presence, confident and eager to serve. He knew it was going to happen. So let me give you just some pointers this morning to help you understand all these things. The first principle I want to give you from Joseph's life is this. See your trials as preparation. All right? Now, I know some of you are thinking, oh, dear Lord, could you give me something better than that? See your trials as preparation. Contrary to popular opinion, success is not an event. It's a process. Success is not an event. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not a jackpot. It's a journey that you go through in your life. Listen, there's no such thing as instant success. Instead, success is a process that involves a lot of flops and falls and failures along the way. Anybody been there? Amen? Yeah! Yeah, I've had my flops and failures and falling along the way. In fact, I'd go so far to say that the people who usually succeed in life are the ones who have failed the most in life. Amen. You say, whew, I'm on my way up there. Yeah. Because sometimes I feel that way. I feel that way, Lord, that I'm one of your biggest failures in life. You know what? Most people live by the motto, if first you don't succeed, find out what the loser gets anyways. Yeah, that's the motto. Find out what the loser gets anyways. Winners in life refuse to give up. That's the thing about them. They refuse to give up. They refuse to see their failures as being final. Again, just because I failed does not mean I'm a failure. I just failed in that attempt of what I tried to do. You see, as far as we know, Joseph never gave up hope, did he? Never do I see in Scripture that Joseph gave up hope. He never lost his perspective on who God was and who he was. And no matter what, he always found the positive benefits of a negative experience. There's always a positive benefit for a negative experience. I know sometimes somebody's going to say, well, hey, look on the bright side. You're wondering, what bright side? What bright side? I'm struggling right now to make ends meet. I'm struggling to get a job. I'm struggling. What's the bright side? What is the positive in the negative? Well, I'm telling you that. God is preparing you for something. He's got to get you ready to get that job before you get that job, because he knows if you're not ready for that job, you'll lose that job. So he's got to get you ready in advance doing this. He always looked for the positive benefit of the negative experience. He reminds me of another slave who came along some 1,000 years later. His name was Booker T. Washington. He was born a slave, and he overcame seemingly insurmountable obstacles to form the National Black League Business League Society. And he once said these words. Listen to what he said. I have learned that success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which one has overcome while trying to succeed. It's not in what you have succeeded by the position you've reached in life. It's by the obstacles that you have overcome in your life which gives you success. It's the obstacles, church, that bring us to the point where success is available. Where you and I can see. You know, most people grudgingly agree that to make it through some tough times in order to succeed. All right, if I got to go through some tough times to succeed, I'll go through some tough times to succeed. You know what? And they're grudgingly. But I think you have to go further than just saying, all right, I'll kind of accept the hard times because I know I got to go through some hard times and I know I got to go through some trials and I'm just going to accept those trials and I really don't want to, but I accept it. Listen, I think you've got to go a step further. To succeed in life, you have to embrace those hard times. Are y'all still with me? You've got to embrace them. You've got to give them a big old bear hug. All right? Say, hey, give me that trial. I want to squeeze it to death. All right? Give me that hard time. I'm going to squeeze it to death. You've got to start embracing these things because chances are, if you're running from your problem today, instead of embracing it, then you're probably running in the wrong direction. Amen? You're probably not moving forward in life. If you're running from your problems and running from your trials and running from your struggles, you're running the opposite direction from what God wants you to do. He wants you to run towards those things because when I was in the Army, I used to love the obstacle course. Nobody liked it. I loved it. It was great. To me, it was fun, and I enjoyed going through this because it challenged me so much. It challenged a lot of things in my life. Because in the obstacle course, you had to go in this this mud pit, and you had to put your face all the way in the mud. If you came out underneath all that barbed wire and stuff up the other side, and the drill sergeant saw that you didn't have mud on your face, he made you go again through that. And so you had to drag your face going through that, and your weapon and stuff under that barbed wire, trying not to get your rump caught on the barbed wire as you went through, kind of thing. And then you'd have to get through that. You'd have mud all over your face. And then they had this huge old ladder that you had to climb. And it was way up in the air. And you started out climbing it, but the higher you got, the further the rungs got apart. And so when you were at the top of the ladder, in order to get over it to come back down, you had to actually stand on this one rung, and you must be 1,000 feet up in the air. Maybe not 1,000, but you're high, all right? You're high up in the air. And so the other one is above your reach. And so the only way to get to it is standing on this one. You are going to have to jump up, grab it, and get yourself over it. All right? That's where most people froze. I don't know how many times drill sergeants had to go get somebody off there that was holding on, and bring them down because they wouldn't get over the obstacle. They wouldn't get over. But once you got over the obstacle, coming down the other side was all right. It was all right. And you know what? All these things you say, well, you know, that's ridiculous. Why do they make you go through those things? That's kind of stupid. They would time you to go through these things. Well, you know what? When I ended up in the Gulf War, I realized why they made me do these things. Because I let my face in the mud a lot of times, all right? Yeah, when bullets are flying above, you don't want to be up there. You want to be down there. And if you can dig a hole down there, that's even better, all right, with your face. I mean, I'm digging up sand in Saudi Arabia, trying like a worm or something going through there. But you see, they taught me these obstacles to overcome because they were preparing me for something that might come ahead, so that I might be able to survive life ahead. And so it was all part of a plan to prepare me for the things which were to come. And so sometimes you and I, we've got to embrace that ladder. We've got to embrace that mud in our face so that we can get to where God wants us to be. Some of the great success stories in history can be found in unexpected benefits of mistake. For example, y'all still with me? Amen. I didn't even know this stuff. I was reading and I was studying some things. Did you know that Edison invented the phonograph while trying to invent something entirely different? He was not trying to invent the phonograph when he invented it. He was trying for something different, and poof, that's what came out. That's what happened. Did you know that the discovery of the polio vaccine was by accident? They weren't trying at that time to do it, and it came about. It was something that came about accident. Now, I know this isn't one of the greatest inventions in the world, but how many did you know that Kellogg's Corn Flakes resulted when boiled wheat was accidentally left on a baking pan overnight? They came in the morning, they saw that. Now, I don't know who decided they thought it would be good to eat at that point, but they saw that, and that's where Kellogg's Corn Flakes came from. It was somebody made an accident, they left some stuff out on a baking pan overnight, and Kellogg's Corn Flakes came out. Scotch towels. Now, this is the greatest one. They were invented, listen, Scotch towels was invented when the toilet paper machine put too much layers of tissue together through the machine, and that's how we got paper towels. That's some good stuff right there. You're going to be able to go home with all kinds of good information today, what you learned at church. You never know what kind of advancement you're going to make during what you think might be an accident. You see, I can tell you for sure that Joseph would have never made it to the king's court if he had not first spent time in the king's dungeon. He had never been able to receive the success he had in the king's court if he had not experienced the dungeon. 13 years he experienced there in the dungeon. And for those 13 years, God was weaving a life together, preparing him for that time. Listen, pain, when properly handled, can shape life for greatness. When it's properly handled, it can shape our lives for greatness. For 13 years, Joseph had welcomed adversity in his life. And when his ship came in, he was ready to get on board. Yeah. He was ready. When that horn sounded, he was ready to get on board that ship. And let me share you just a few things real quick. Are you still with me? Say amen. Amen. Number one is this. Number one, in life, you will learn lessons. Amen. In life, you're going to learn lessons. Number two, there are no mistakes, only lessons. There are no mistakes in life, only lessons to be learned. Number three, a lesson is repeated until the lesson is learned. That's my favorite! Yeah! The lesson is repeated until the lesson is learned. So when the lesson comes to you, you better just jump all into that and learn it, or you're going to go through it again. Amen or oh me. Number four, if you don't learn the easy lesson, they get harder. Means amen. 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 And number five, you'll know that you've learned a lesson when your actions change. You know you'll learn the lesson when your actions change. You know, teachers teach you things. They give you tests and stuff like this. When they give you a test, they're not testing their knowledge. They're testing yours. It's a test for you, not for them. If you flunk the test, they don't go home and say, what am I going to do now? Keith flunked the test today. I'll never be a good teacher. No, you're a good teacher. I was just a dumb student. I just didn't learn it. Listen, the test is to teach you things. Not them. They already know it. It's to teach you, and that's about the test. You remember Joe? Do you remember Joe? Where's Bernie? Bernie, did you go to school with Joe? You did you? Amen? All right. We pick on Bernie because she's Bernie, and we love her. Job was a man who seemed to share in some hard times. You remember Job lost everything. He lost his house. He lost his kids. He lost all of his material possessions. He ends up sitting on an ash heap, what used to be his house. And then he had these seeping boils that started splurting all over the place, like popping pimples. You understand? Woo, wants to go to lunch. Yeah, all right. And they're popping all over the place, and it's terrible. And then his wife comes along and says, man, you're disgusting. Why don't you just curse God and die? And all these things. Job had some hard times. But Job said this in Job chapter 29, or 23, 9 and 6. He said this, when he has tried me, when he has tested me, when he has put me through the ringer, when he has run all the tests in my life, when he has done all these things, when he has tried me. Listen to me, church. See, finding and shaping gold is not a hurried process. When you take gold and you try to refine it and shape it, it's not a hurried process. It takes time to discover, purify, and shape gold. Affliction is the process that God uses to shape our character. Let me say that again. Affliction is the process that God uses to shape our character. But Job he went on. He said, when he has tried me, then I shall come forth as gold. Amen. Listen, it's time to come forth. Amen. Our coming forth is come. And when the whistle on the ship blows, you better be ready to board it. Because that's going to come in our day. We'll be ready to serve him where he chooses and handle any promotion he brings our way when we understand that our trials are a preparation for us to receive the palace. Amen. That was Joseph's life. So number two is this. Y'all still with me? Amen. Amen. Now you see why I didn't want to rush through it last week. Amen. God bless. I'll tell you what. Listen, the second thing is this. Wear your rewards with humility. Wear your rewards with humility. Now imagine yourself in Joseph's place for just a second, all right? Don't close your eyes because then you won't come back, all right? Just keep them open. Imagine yourself in Joseph's place. He hadn't been a part of the real world for years. He hadn't been a part of the real world for 13 years. Maybe he hadn't even seen sunlight in this dungeon that he's been in. And now he's standing in the middle of the most beautiful palace in the world before the most powerful ruler of all the nations of the world. And Pharaoh addresses him. Look what it says in Genesis 41:15. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it.